Welcome back, YouTube. Working on the 280Z some more today. Decided I'm going to take those ugly crash bumper. They're actually like a shock of some kind. I got this one off already. Pretty easy. Just had to cut some of the exhaust out, but I'm not using any of that anyway. The other side, I got to take the fuel tank out. So we started with draining that. It's absolutely disgusting gas. But we'll continue with that and then hopefully get the gas tank out pretty easily. I don't know if you can tell, but that gas is yellow. It's been sitting, I'd say, since 2018 when they last registered it. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is take this tank out right here. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but definitely has to do with the fuel system. I believe it's some sort of early evap tank. Alright, we got that out, so it's just two small lines and two of these larger lines here. Now we'll pop off the fuel filler neck. Just one hose clamp right here with a Phillips head. Now let's go check back what we can do underneath. Alright, now we gotta pop these two small fuel lines off the tank right here. Alright, now that we got both of those hoses removed, it's time to remove the tank straps and drop the tank down. You got one bolt right there, one bolt right there, and the tank should drop down. We might have some stuff still connected on the top, I'm not sure. Alright, I got my jack set up supporting the tank, so I'm going to spray these bolts with some PB so we can get them off easier. Hopefully they'll come right off. The nuts are a 14mm, by the way. Looks like even though I loosened up that fuel filler neck, I believe that's what's still holding me up right now. So we got two hoses that come from up top that we still got to get loose, and then we're done. It really wasn't too bad. Now we can continue on with getting that bumper shock out. Underneath here we got this rubber piece right here that has to come off. I'm not exactly sure what it's for. I'm thinking maybe to protect the fuel tank in the event of a rear collision. But either way, it's going to come out. It's in the way of one of the bolts. On this, there's two bolts on here, the 12mm. Comes off pretty easily. Now, the three bolts down here that are holding on that bumper shock are 14mm. And then back up top, we got three nuts right here, 17mm, and that shock will fall right down. Alright, that should be good for those. Now it should come right out the bottom. Just like that. Alright, it's been about a week since I last worked on the Datsun, and I got some exciting news. So I found this locally on Facebook Marketplace yesterday. Went and picked it up. Got it for $500. It's a NA VVTi 2JZ. So it's the least desirable of the 2JZs, but it can make a ton of power just like all the other ones. Just got, from what I read, it's got weaker rods, higher compression pistons, so it doesn't take boost well. But when you rip it apart, change the pistons, change the rods, and you got just the same thing as any other 2J. It has been rebuilt. The previous, or the guy that I bought it from, he rebuilt it, stock parts. Just went through it, put new bearings in and everything. It hasn't been run yet, so there's a bit of a risk here, but I think because I got it so cheap, it was worth it. My plan right now is just run it NA, get it in the car, get the car running, driving, and just run it like that for a while, and then get my parts together and eventually turbo it. I wasn't 100% sure on the motor until I saw this pop up. I was still going back and forth between a 2J and an LS. I know I could do an LS, and I could do it easily and cheap. I've done it before. I had a LS swapped S13. Since I've done that already once, I figured I'd get into something that I don't know and learn about a 2J. And I think that the sound and everything about a 2J fits together with a 280Z better. That came with an inline 6 to begin with. So we keep it kind of original, even though we're swapping to Toyota power instead of Nissan. But it'll be interesting to learn everything about the 2J going forward. Also, with all this stuff, I got a bunch of other parts, intake parts. This 2J came out of a 05 GS300, he said. So I got all the intake manifold, exhaust, I got a bunch of intake parts, I got like 4 starters, the full wiring harness has been uncut, ECU, and I got the key with the immobilizer, which is important on these. Apparently it's either you can't or it's really hard to bypass the immobilizer to get it running in a swapped car. So hopefully it shouldn't be too bad. If it's anything like an LS swap, I should just be able to hook everything up, put power and ground to a couple places, and I believe it'll start. But we'll see when we get to that point. So for today, the plan is right now to take out the motor. So let's get started with that. All right, we're gonna start with taking the hood off. Alright, so we're getting ready to take the engine out. Since the head's not on it, basically everything's disconnected already. I got the drive shaft out already. All we got to disconnect now, looks like, is the starter. We got the radiator hose, wiring over here to the alternator, and the distributor, and the engine mounts, and I think it's ready to come out. Alright, so we got the engine out. As you can see, got an empty bay now. Gonna start taking out all the other accessories and everything so we can see if there's any rust issues in here and get the bay all cleaned up and prep for the 2JZ. It came with this little aftermarket intake on it, which is gonna be absolutely no use to me, so let's get that off there. We got it off. So this is the first Z car, I believe. I know the 240s and 260s were carbureted, but I believe this is the first Z car that was fuel injected. And this has a very early style mass airflow sensor. As you can see inside, it's actually got a little door that opens as the air flows through it. And it has a potentiometer in here. You can see as the door moves, that potentiometer moves and changes the voltage coming out. I don't know if these use 5-volt reference like modern cars, but basically how that works is if it uses some sort of reference voltage coming in, and then as that door moves, the potentiometer changes the voltage going out, which will go back to the computer and tell the computer how far that door is open, which would tell it how much air is flowing into the engine, which allows it to inject the correct amount of fuel. Modern fuel injected cars do not have a mass airflow like this. They have, there's no physical door that moves in them. They have a little resistor that goes in line with the air. There's no physical moving parts, and it just changes resistance based on the airflow going by. But it's interesting to see an early style mass airflow system. So one thing I've been doing is trying to keep my bolts all as organized as possible. So what I do is I have these plastic bags here, just like that. I picked these up off of Amazon. This was for the mass airflow, so we're going to put just MAF on here. Stick our bolts in. And then I got a whole big gallon bag of just engine and transmission bolts. All be labeled, so if I need something in the future, I know where it is. And I can show you over here. This is the interior box. This whole big box, or big bag of bolts and screws and nuts and other hardware. All labeled, so I know exactly where everything came from. So when it comes time to reassembly, I might not use any of them because they might be junk, but at least I'll know what they are, what goes where, and I can get the right size bolts pretty easily if I do need to get replacements. Let's continue on removing stuff from the bag. I'm going to take the radiator out, I think. I've already drained it from when I took the engine out, so we'll get this reservoir off right here. Hose goes back here. And I think, yep, just pops right off. This piece here appears to be an EVAP canister. Let's pop that off. Not really sure why they had it be quick disconnect. I don't know if they meant for that to be serviced regularly or something. I know I could just cut all these hoses when I'm taking stuff apart. I don't like doing that. I'd rather take things apart correctly, not cut everything. That way if I need to see what stuff went to previously, I can always take a look and pop it back together. Although I highly doubt I'm ever going to use this again, but we'll go stick it in our engine box and keep it for now. Alright, I think we're going to call it a weekend there. Pretty successful, I'd say. Got the engine out, got a little bit of the bay cleaned up. Big thing was we picked up that 2J though yesterday. So excited about that. Get started working on that. I need some help though. I don't know what to run for a transmission. My first thought is a CDO9 out of a 350Z, but between the cost of the transmission and the swap kit, you know, bell housing and everything, it's pretty expensive. Probably about the same price as a T56 I'm looking like. So I don't know if there's some other options. I know a W58 out of a Mark III Supra would work, but from what I see, they don't hold that much power. It'd be good stock, but where I want a turbo wood, I'd rather put the transmission in that I want to start with, so I don't have to rebuild mounts and all that stuff. If anybody has any tips, I would appreciate it. I think next episode we'll get more of the engine bay cleaned up, but probably think I will take off the front bumper and everything, get that right out of the way, because it would be so much easier to access the bay with that stuff off. I mean, you got like that front bumper overhangs the core support over a foot, so we'll get that off of there. You know, get all the headlight buckets and everything off, and then continue on working with the bay. That's the plan now anyway. But thanks for watching. Anybody has any tips, I'd appreciate it. Any Datsun knowledge, and if you want to subscribe, it'd be helpful. Thanks.